as well. So we'll just wait a minute or two so we can make sure that we are live on both those channels.
And I'll just give a shout out to our ASL assistants. Thank you very much for helping us today. Hopefully we won't make you too busy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Thank you for joining the Ottawa Police for this update to the community on the ongoing demonstration. Remarks will be followed by a brief media availability. Merci d'être avec nous aujourd'hui pour la mise à jour de la police d'Ottawa. Celle-ci sera suivie d'une disponibilité aux médias. My name is Constable Amy Gagnon, and I will be your moderator. Je suis l'agente Amy Gagnon et je serai votre animatrice. Today, we will have remarks from Ottawa Police Chief Slowly and Deputy Chief Steve Bell. Nos conférenciers aujourd'hui seront le chef de police d'Ottawa, Peter Slowly, et le chef adjoint, Steve Bell. Sur ce, je cède la parole au chef de police, Peter Slowly, and on that note, I will let Chief Peter Slowly give his remarks.
Thank you very much, Amy. Good afternoon, and thank you everybody for joining us here today. Today, I want to update you on our efforts to put an end to the unlawful occupation. First, I want to talk about our request for additional resources to the two levels of government, province and federal. We're working with these levels of government as well as our policing partners to secure additional help. There are positive ongoing discussions that have happened over the last 2 days. I want to reinforce more reinforcements, more resources means a faster set of results to end this unlawful demonstration. Over the last 24 hours, we've continued to do everything we have with the resources that we have to reduce the footprint of the occupation and the effects of the demonstration and the unlawful conduct around the demonstration through a combination of negotiation and enforcement. In particular, I can report that we have negotiated the departure of 12 trucks from the Coventry Road encampment and 10 trucks from the Wellington footprint. Firewood and fuel continue to be interdicted and seized. Criminal charges are being laid in relation to these activities. There have been over 1,700 tickets issued. There have been a total of 25 arrests to date, including criminal charges for mischief and menacing behavior. We have 126 active criminal investigations, and we have over 400 hate incidents that have been reported to our hate hotline, all of which are being investigated. We are making progress, and the key to success, again, is more resources to safely, lawfully, and swiftly end this demonstration. We expect that many demonstrators are considering coming to the city this weekend. Please do not come. For those of you that are planning to come here and commit offenses, don't. There will be accountability for any unlawful criminal activities that occur in this city in relation to this demonstration. The Ottawa Police Service will continue to deploy our surge, enforce, and contain strategy, hardening the downtown core and deploying all available resources. We know that the residents of Ottawa are angry. We know that you are tired. We know that you want your neighborhoods back. You have suffered, and we will ensure those responsible face the consequences. The Ottawa Police Service, our City of Ottawa partners, and our policing partners from all three levels of government are doing everything in our power to put an end to this unlawful occupation. I want to thank every member of our service. You have stepped up in every manageable way to protect our residents and keep our city safe. Our city and our service owe each of you an immeasurable debt of gratitude. Thank you. I also want to thank all community members, organizations, service providers, and public officials who have worked in support of our efforts to date. Thank you, and I'm prepared to take questions at this point.
Did Deputy Chief Steve Bell have some comments before we move to questions? Or did you want to move to questions right away?
No, thanks, Amy. I'm here to support the chief in answering any sort of questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we'll proceed by alphabetical order with media outlets. We'll be beginning with our local media. Then we will be going to national media. You may ask one question each. And it's a reminder to put your microphone on mute until I invite you to ask your question. Please do not raise your hand. We do have a list that we will be following. We have 15 to 20 minutes. Alors, nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions de chaque média par ordre alphabétique. Nous commencerons avec les médias locaux. Ensuite, nous passerons aux médias nationaux. Vous allez pouvoir poser une question chaque. J'aimerais rappeler aux médias de désactiver votre micro jusqu'à ce que je vous invite à poser une question. Vous n'avez pas besoin de lever votre main. Nous avons une liste des médias présents. Nous avons environ 15 à 20 minutes. So we will begin. Nous commencerons avec Jadrino. Alors, Jadrino, ça sera à toi. Jadrino, if you have a question.
Merci, Amy. Vous m'entendez bien? Mr. Slowly, you were estimating the cost per day at the beginning of the protest at roughly 800,000 per day. Are we at the same number? Is that meaning? Does that mean that we are over 10 million and plus of extra costs of police services?
Thank you very much for your question. It has been fluctuating between $700,000 and $800,000. As more police resources have been coming in, those costs are increasing. So your number is accurate based on the estimate that we've been given. However, again, we have still not received all of the total costs to date. That's likely going to be on the low side.
Merci. Thank you, Jadrino. We will now go to CBC, and I have Guy Quenneville. So, Guy, you can ask a question.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for your time. As you mentioned, Chief, citizens of Ottawa are facing the prospect of a third straight weekend of these demonstrators, which tends to be the most ramped up time of activity. And you also touched on the expected reinforcements or the request for them anyway, but I'm still not hearing exactly when those reinforcements are going to arrive, in particular, if they're going to arrive in time for the weekend and that period of heightened activity. I mean, we heard today that RCMP will be sending reinforcements, but do you have any new information on when RCMP reinforcements or reinforcements from any other agency will actually be part of your response on the ground? And do you hope to further reduce the footprint of the demonstration and also get rid of the supply satellite sites that are also cropping up this weekend or soon after with the help of those reinforcements, should they actually arrive this weekend?
Thank you, Guy. And as I said, more resources, more reinforcements means more results, quicker results, safer results. But thank you. Yes, I can advise the 250 RCMP officers that were announced on Monday at our board meeting. We continue to swear them in on a daily basis and deploy them into our operations. They've been incredibly helpful. Already 2 of their officers, in addition to helping with the demonstration, used Narcan to save a life. We are expecting from the GTHA a number of public order units that will be arriving in the next 12 hours and over the next 48 hours to reinforce our public order units that are already in the city. There is a provincial operation being run by the Ontario Provincial Police, coordinated by Commissioner Tom Carrick, that is helping to triage resources here in the city and across the province to different locations where there are other aspects of this demonstration taking place. There is a strong level of coordination and communication between all three levels of policing and public safety agencies, and we're expecting more announcements around resources coming into the city. As they arrive, they will continue to advance our efforts to end this demonstration as quickly and as safely as possible.
Thank you. Merci. We'll now go to City News. Alex Gouge. Alex, you'll be able to ask your question shortly. And then following Alex, we'll be going to CTV. And I do believe we have two. So if we could just have one of you raise your hand so we know who will be asking a question. Thank you. Go ahead, Alex.
Hello. So I was just wondering, what's the rationale for allowing an encampment to be set up at 1500 Bronson when the overall goal is to get these demonstrators to leave the city?
Thank you very much, Alex, for your question. I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Steve Bell to respond first on that.
Yes, thank you very much, Chief. Thanks very much, Alex, for the question. So in the very early days, at the very outset of the Freedom Convoy that started to come across Canada and all of our planning around that, we identified several locations within the city where we were looking to have overflow trucks park in the attempts to actually establish locations for trucks to park so that we could have people transported downtown to be engaged in what would have been considered a typical or more normal demonstration. Those areas were communicated to the convoys as they were coming across through communications with our police liaison team. And what has happened as the week has progressed, that location that you spoke of has been now taken up by some people to be used to supply and support the ongoing illegal occupation. I can tell you that that's something we've identified, and it's something we actively work on through negotiations and through enforcement efforts to stop those supply depots.
Great, thank you. And I see that Jérémy Charon from CTV. So Jérémy, you'll be able to ask your question shortly. And I see that Global News Ottawa is logged on. If you do have a question, I'm going to ask Global to raise your hand so that we know that you'll be next. Thank you. Jérémy, you may go ahead.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Sure can. Go ahead.
So I understand that you say that enforcement is happening, you're making arrests, you're working to reduce the occupation's footprint. But I believe in what I've heard from a lot of residents that are still walking the streets downtown in the core, seeing Wellington Street, seeing everything that's happening here. It's hard for them to understand and see how things are being reduced, how we're seeing the size come down. There's still a significant amount of trucks out there. What's what do you say to those people that feel as though nothing is being done right now? And what's the plan to get all of these trucks out?
I appreciate that very much, Jeremy. And sometimes it is very difficult, particularly those who've been unlawfully victimized and traumatized for the length of time and the nature in which some of the more menacing and hateful incidents unfolded in the very first weekend. So I can completely empathize and understand that. We can, though, remember that on the Saturday when the first large portion of the demonstration occurred, there were some 3,000 plus trucks, as low as 7,000, an estimate as high as 15,000 in terms of participants in the demonstration. We saw by the next weekend, the number of trucks had been down to 1,000, and the highest number I saw was 5,000, including counter demonstrations, Saturday being active, Sunday being almost no demonstrations in the core. We're not going to take any great solace in those successes of reduction. As of today, the number of trucks that are involved in the actual red zone footprints is 400, and we removed some 25 of them over the last 24 hours through negotiation. So day by day, we are removing trucks through negotiation and towing enforcement from the footprints in the red zone and around in the surrounding neighborhoods. Weekend over weekend, we are seeing significant reductions in the range of 50 to 65% of total trucks and total demonstrators. We continue to harden the city, and we continue to go after funding, fuel, and other logistic supports that are enabling the demonstration to go on. We're negotiating wherever possible, and we're enforcing wherever possible. And as we get more reinforcements, more resources, we will get more results and a safer and swifter end to this unlawful, unsafe demonstration.
Thank you. And then global news, I see that you do have someone, so I'll just ask the reporter to identify themselves before they ask their question. So you may go ahead, global.
Hi there, it's Abigail Beeman with Global News. Chief Soley, I'm looking for some more specifics on the call for more resources. There was, your call for 1,800 more bodies with that split. I heard you give the specific of 250 in terms of RCMP, but for that 1,800 number, where exactly are you at?
So we're still in very constructive and very productive discussions with the RCMP, the Ontario Provincial Police, the big 12 police agencies here in Ontario. As I mentioned earlier on, OPP Commissioner Tom Carrique has established a provincial-wide resource base. It is actually working here in Ottawa out of an RCMP building. And I literally just finished a call with all three levels of public safety agencies, including all major police services here in Ontario, around the establishment of that central coordination hub, how it's supporting us here in the nation's capital, as well as the GTA, Southern Ontario, specifically Sarnia and Windsor and other locations, either currently having or expecting demonstrations, sympathetic demonstrations, or decentralized demonstrations that are occurring from this central location here in Ottawa. There are resources coming to us. I am quite certain of that. We are seeing the resources promised from the RCMP being sworn in and deployed in real time. And we have information that indicates there'll be other announcements in the next 24 to 48 hours. There are a number of public order units that are coming from the GTHA police services that will be arriving today and over the weekend here in Ottawa for immediate deployment. I say it again, the more resources, the more reinforcements, the safer and quicker we can end this unlawful and unsafe demonstration here in the city.
Thank you. Merci. We're now going to go to Le Droit, Charles-Antoine Gagnon. So it'll be Charles-Antoine Gagnon with Le Droit, followed by Frédéric Pépin, Radio-Canada.
Hello. Hi.
Vas-y, Charles-Antoine.
You say that you negotiated the removal of 12 trucks at Coventry Road and another 10 trucks left downtown core. Are we talking about the big one, the pickup trucks, first of all? And when you talk about negotiated the removal, what did you say to them for them to leave?
Well, thank you very much. And yes, when I reference those vehicles that left, those are all trucks, the large trucks. The negotiations have been ongoing, literally ongoing from before the first convoys arrived in Ottawa. And in every one of those cases, we have reinforced that demonstrators arriving here need to do so peacefully, need to do so lawfully. And if they intend to do anything otherwise unlawful, they should not come. Otherwise, they will face consequences. In every one of the negotiations, we have tried to find a peaceful and lawful way for individuals or groups of individuals, including the vehicles and conveyances that they've brought here, to leave peacefully, lawfully. We have also been very clear that unlawful behavior will be met with consequences. In the cases that we talked about in the last 24 hours, we were able, through a very skilled and dedicated group of police liaison officers and expert negotiators that have been brought in from across the province, to convince people who feel that they came here, have made their points, are now suffering potentially jeopardy for any unlawful activity, to return to their homes and bring their vehicles with them. And that's what we've reported on today. That has continued from every day since we started, and it will continue to the very last day when the very last truck and demonstrator leaves here, either through negotiation or through enforcement.
Merci. Thank you. Now we're going to Frédéric Pépin, avec Radio-Canada. Vas-y, Frédéric.
Oh, hi, Chief Slowly. So yesterday, you guys sent a release saying that protesters that block the streets, they could be fined, they can even face arrests. A few days prior, you guys were saying people that are bringing gas in, you could be arrested. So we still see this gas being brought in, and we still see trucks that are blocking the streets. So what's the strategy here, Chief Slowly?
Thank you, Frederick. And you're absolutely right. We are not able, with the resources that we have right now, to interdict all the sources of supports that are going to the demonstrators. When we get more resources, we will be able to take out fully those supply bases. We will be able to fully interdict those people bringing in gas canisters. We'll be able to deploy enough resources to tag and tow and arrest those people who are committing bylaw offenses, provincial offenses, or federal offenses, particularly criminal code offenses. That is exactly why we made the resource request of the 1,800 resources. And that is why we're grateful for the support of the mayor and the chair for the letters that they sent to the provincial government and to the federal government. And that is why I have spent every day since this demonstration started trying to get more resources. More resources, more reinforcements means more results. A speedier, safer, more lawful end to this unlawful and unsafe demonstration.
Thank you. We'll now be going to CTV National, Annie Bergeron-Olivier, followed by Globe and Mail, Christy Kirkup. So Annie, shouldn't be long. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my question. There are still hundreds of trucks in the downtown core, as you mentioned, and you talked earlier this week about the inability to get tow trucks to get on side to help Ottawa Police move them. Have any of the tow truck operators, including any of those previously contracted to work with police, have they been amenable to moving trucks if asked by Ottawa Police? And if not, why?
Thank you, Annie. It's a great question. I can tell you this, at least one of the major tow trucks that would have been able to supply us with the logistics to tow illegal vehicles and to a significant degree reduce the size of the demonstration has been threatened themselves. They have been threatened through some sophisticated online activities and direct threats to harm to their employees and their business. There is a full criminal investigation going into those threats. In other cases, we have had uncooperative private sector agents that we've contacted. And so it's been incredibly difficult. Again, I was on a call with the chiefs of police from across the province. I've heard from the chief of police in Windsor has faced exactly the same problems. Uncooperative agents down there, or people who themselves have been threatened to not participate and support in police operations to remove the demonstrators that are blocking the international bridge to the United States. We've heard this from Coots, Alberta, from the RCMP operations out there. This is a significant logistical impasse, and we're doing everything we can to get past it. We have looked at all sorts of options, and we're looking at all sorts of joint procurement efforts, including across the country and south of the border. We are considering other methods that may allow us to not need to use tow trucks to the extent we initially thought. All options are on the table.
Thank you. And we'll be going to the Globe and Mail, Christy Kirkup, followed by the National Post, Ryan Tumulty. It won't be long. It'll be Christy Kirkup. And we will come back to CBC National, Stephen Hoff, after. So it'll be Globe and Mail, Christy, National Post, Ryan, and in CBC National, Stephen Hoff.
Hi, good afternoon. Chief Slowly, I'm wondering how concerned are you about the fact that some of the organizers involved in the convoy have military and RCMP backgrounds, and I'm wondering to what extent has this contributed to reluctance or any reluctance to be more aggressive in terms of enforcement efforts?
Christy, let me be clear. There is no reluctance to be involved in enforcement efforts. We have been enforcing the law from day one, and we continue to do so. As more resources become available, as we move the size of the demonstration and contain it to greater degrees, we've redeployed those resources into enforcement. Our charges are up, our arrests are up, we're towing more trucks, and we're able to be able to negotiate with demonstrators in a more forceful way. So again, enforcement has and will continue to increase as resources become more available. In regards to the capabilities of the overarching demonstration, I've been clear from the beginning. This is an unprecedented demonstration. It has significant levels of fundraising, coordination, communication. They have command centers established here and across the country and beyond this country. The level of capability that I'm talking about has been validated by our national security agencies, who have already given us a briefing again today that reinforces the very question that you've asked. This is an entirely sophisticated level of demonstrators. They have the capability to run strong organization here, provincially and nationally, and we're seeing that play out in real time. So it is a significant concern. It is a significant risk that we're trying to mitigate and overcome. And as we get more resources, we will get better results.
We now go to National Post, Ryan Timothy. So Ryan, you'll be able to ask your question now.
Yeah, hi there, Chief. I'm wondering, of the request you made for 1,800 officers earlier this week, how much of that request has been fulfilled, or do you suspect to be fulfilled? And do you need more support, particularly from either the federal or provincial side of that equation? Is one side doing more than the other?
Thank you very much for your question, Ryan. Again, incredibly productive and constructive discussions that have been taking place in person in this city. Both levels of government have sent some of their best people to participate in those discussions, from very tactically focused commanders who understand the ground to strategic level commanders with years of experience, but understand the difficulties of logistics and airlifting hundreds, if not thousands, of people from across the province and across the country into a location like this, and down in the south of Ontario in Windsor. We are making progress. We are seeing more people from the original 250 that the RCMP announced on Monday. We are seeing more OPP officers mobilized. I'm expecting announcements in the next 24 to 48 hours from both levels of governments in regards to the additional resources that we requested 2 days ago. I am confident that we will get some results, but the quicker those results come, the quicker those resources come, the quicker we will get safer results to an end of the unlawful demonstration here.
Thank you. And we have time for 2 more questions. We'll be going to CBC National with Stephen Hoff, followed by Canadian Press, Jim Bronskill. So those will be our last 2 questions. So Stephen, you'll be up. You can ask your 1 question. Go ahead.
Hi, Chiefs. Thanks for taking my question. I'm wondering, I know Ottawa Police are working with Ottawa Bylaw. Have they also been working with Ministry of Transportation officers to do inspections on the trucks? I'm also hoping you can comment on the issues 911 was having and whether you can directly relate that to convoy activity. Thank you so much.
Stephen, thank you. And if I've forgotten any one of your questions, just please remind me. Let me go in reverse order, please. We are quite certain that the excessive calls that almost jammed our 911 call system last night were coming in from elements that are supporting the core demonstrations here and across the country. They were coming in from the United States, not exclusively, but significantly from United States-based addresses. We've worked hard overnight. Our dispatchers have put in contingencies to move those calls away so we can still dispatch resources to emergency calls and to support our demonstrations. Those efforts of swatting and doxing our organizations and logistics have been ongoing throughout this demonstration and have represented a major challenge to us in managing this. These are tactics that we've seen deployed in other locations across North America, and they're being employed here. Sorry, if you could just repeat your other 2 questions, please, sir.
Just one other question. Are you working with Ministry of Transportation inspections to escort them into the red zone and look at possible violations there? I know this was done in Quebec City last weekend. I'm just wondering if it's happening here.
Yes, thank you very much. And in fact, it was the Quebec City example that we were looking to leverage. Literally at the same time, we had the demonstration down in the GTA, Toronto specifically. And then in the last 48 hours, we've seen demonstrations in Windsor, Sarnia, and I think 2 other locations in the province. We are all now seeking the supports of the MTO around similar demonstrations. MTO is trying to triage all of the requests that are coming in from Ottawa, the GTHA and Southern Ontario. And that's a challenge that we're having right now to make sure that we're getting the right request triaged and the right response from a central logistical support from the MTO.
Thank you. And now we're going to go to Canadian Press, Jim Bronskill. Jim, you may go ahead.
Yes, the force put out a release last night that basically said the trucks blocking streets are breaking the law and could be impounded, could be confiscated. I think some are wondering, why isn't that happening now? Or at least why aren't the drivers parked blocking roads being arrested? And you can worry about the trucks later.
Thank you very much, Jim. And again, I'll go back to it. We have been making arrests of people who are unlawfully driving or using their vehicles in any way. A range of arrests and charges have been made. That will continue as it has from the first day to the last day. And investigations and prosecutions of those who broke the law, particularly the criminal law, will continue in perpetuity until they're brought into justice in one way or the other, no matter where they live in this country. I'll come back to it again. As soon as we get more resources that we can free up from reducing the size of the demonstration, we apply those resources immediately to enforcement of those laws. We have made a significant request to the two other levels of government for significant more resources. When they arrive here, they will immediately apply to those enforcement activities so that we can make good on those consequences as quickly as possible and end this unlawful demonstration as quickly and as safely and as lawfully as possible. Thank you so much for your question, sir.
That ends the time we have today. Alors, cela termine la période de questions que nous avons.
Madame Gagnon,
Et-
est-ce qu'on peut avoir un statement en français?
Oui, je vais vous le donner. Je vais juste laisser le chef partir parce qu'il va devoir partir. Et puis, alors juste patienter une minute. And those, we apologize to the media we did not get to. You will be prioritized on our next media availability. Alors, on s'excuse aux médias qui n'ont pas pu poser de questions. Vous seriez notre priorité à la prochaine disponibilité médiatique. Please remember to put the media that you are with so we can ensure that all media have questions. Alors, on vous rappelle, lorsque vous mettez votre nom, mettez le média pour lequel vous appartenez aussi. D'accord? So, Chief and Deputy, you can go and I'll provide a French statement to those that are online for French. Alors, Frédéric,
Oui, Amy, je
est-ce
suis là.
oui, est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose de précis
Oui,
que tu aimerais que je répète en français?
Oui, la mise à jour sur le nombre, les chiffres, les nombres d'accusations et pas des arrestations, mais les tickets, là, les constats d'infraction qui ont été
Les
remis.
constats d'infraction.
Mhm. Puis si ce serait possible, on aimerait avoir une réaction. Je ne sais pas si le chef Solé l'a mentionné, mais sur les 911, si tu peux me donner quelque chose sur les appels au 911, on aimerait savoir c'est quoi la réaction de la police. On a vu votre tweet, mais on voudrait l'avoir comme
Oui,
ça aussi.
pas de problème. Alors, je vais commencer justement avec le 911.
Et Amy, est-ce que je peux te voir ou est-ce que tu n'as pas l'option de la caméra?
J'ai l'option de la caméra, mais je n'ai pas un arrière-plan qui est merveilleux.
Tu n'étais pas prête pour ça, hein, Amy?
Non, pas tout à fait. Alors, je vais te donner de l'audio pour aujourd'hui. OK?
OK, parfait. Oui, ça va être excellent.
OK. Alors, juste un instant. Alors, en ce qui concerne les 911, alors, on a été avisé justement que oui, effectivement, notre centre d'appel a été débordé et puis on a réalisé que c'était une des tactiques des manifestants d'empêcher nos lignes 911 de prendre des urgences. Alors, heureusement, nos personnes, nos employés ont réalisé rapidement ce qui se passait et puis ont pu mettre en place un plan pour trier ces appels-là et puis pour qu'ils n'empêchent pas les gens qui ont vraiment une urgence de joindre le 911. Alors, on a pu rapidement mettre en place une personne ou plusieurs personnes qui ont pris ces appels-là et puis nos agents au 911 ont pu continuer de prendre les appels et de vraiment répondre aux appels d'urgence pour permettre aux agents de vraiment continuer à faire nos devoirs en tant que policiers de la ville d'Ottawa. Alors, on a pu répondre à un petit peu cette tactique-là vraiment de façon rapide, si on veut. Je ne sais pas si ça répond un peu.
Oui, c'est super.
OK.
Et parlez-moi maintenant des constats d'infraction. Le chiffre qu'on a vu aujourd'hui de 1700, j'aimerais avoir votre mise à jour, à savoir, et ça, le 1700, c'est depuis le début, hein, c'est ça?
Oui, c'est exact. Alors, je peux même commencer. Depuis le début de la manifestation, on a reçu plus de 1000 appels de services qui sont en lien avec la démo. Alors, ça va au-dessus de tous les autres appels de services dans la ville d'Ottawa. On a eu 25 personnes qui ont été arrêtées, qui font face à des chefs d'accusation criminelle. Et puis, ça, on parle de méfaits, on parle de fuite de police, on parle aussi de possession de drogue, de conduite qui est disqualifiée, de bris de probation. On parle de gens qui ont fait des menaces, mais on parle aussi de ceux qui, justement, amènent le diesel et pour essayer d'encourager les manifestants de rester. Et alors, ça, c'est les chefs d'accusation. Quand on parle de contravention, on a plus de 1500 contraventions et ça, c'est la police d'Ottawa et les services municipaux. Alors, bruit excessif, feu d'artifice, ceux qui ne respectent pas la lumière rouge, alors ceux qui passent à travers une lumière rouge, les camions qui conduisent dans une rue qui est bien marquée aucun camion permis. On parle aussi de ceinture, ceux qui ne portent pas leur ceinture de sécurité. On parle de véhicules qui ont conduit sur des trottoirs. On parle de ceux aussi qui conduisent avec un cellulaire à la main. On parle de silencieux qui sont inappropriés, qui n'ont pas de silencieux. Alors, il y en a plusieurs. On a aussi pour qui conduisent avec pas d'assurance, avec un permis qui est suspendu. Ce sont que quelques contraventions qui ont été émises. Il y a aussi plusieurs véhicules qui ont été saisis et remorqués. Et ça inclut aussi un véhicule qui a été volé et puis un autre véhicule qui a été abandonné au centre-ville.
Ah oui,
Ça t'aide?
abandonné. Oui, ça m'aide beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Amy.
OK. Juste un instant, je veux aussi ajouter qu'on a aussi 126 enquêtes criminelles qui sont actives et puis qui sont en lien avec la manifestation.
126, c'est bien noté. Merci.
OK?
Merci, Amy.
De rien, Frédéric.
Au revoir.
Bye.